Purpose of this hearing is to assess the current role of FEMA, including FEMA's expanding mission set, FEMA's stewardship of taxpayer dollars, and its coordination with the state and local governments in disaster recovery response. Without objection, the gentleman from Guam, Mr. Moreland, and the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Moskowitz, are permitted to sit on the dais and ask questions to witnesses. I now recognize myself for an opening statement. Good morning, and thank you to everyone for joining today for this first hearing of the Committee on Homeland Security's Subcommittee on Emergency Management and Technology in the 119th Congress. With over 4 decades of experience as a first responder, having served the people of Alabama as both an emergency medical technician and volunteer firefighter, I'm honored to serve as chairman of this subcommittee. I'm committed to using this subcommittee to advance the cause of first responders and emergency managers across the nation, making sure that they are prepared and resilient against all challenges. I also wish to congratulate my colleagues across the aisle, Mr. Kennedy of New York, on his role as ranking member. I look forward to working with you as we strive to ensure our communities are prepared to prevent, respond to, and recover from emergencies and disasters. I'd like to welcome back Mr. Burkeen of Oklahoma, and finally, I want to welcome the newcomers to the subcommittee and to Congress, Mr. Evans of Colorado, Mr. McKenzie of Pennsylvania, and across the aisle, Ms. Johnson of Texas, and Mr. Hernandez of Puerto Rico. I look forward to working with all of you this Congress to do the work securing our homeland. In the interest of ensuring our homeland is resilient and prepared for all types of disasters, it is fitting that the subcommittee's first hearing is on FEMA, the nation's primary disaster relief agency. FEMA oversees national preparedness, grants, and federal disaster assistance, coordinates relief efforts, and ensures our nation is able to prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters. Recent events have overwhelmed our state and localities and challenged their ability to mobilize and help their communities. In 2024 alone, FEMA responded and administered resources for over 100 major declarations. According to NOAA, natural disasters last year caused 568 fatalities, and damages totaled approximately $182.7 billion. Hurricane Helene and Milton alone devastated the East Coast, causing 251 deaths and $113.9 billion in damages. Beginning in January of this year, fires in Los Angeles County and Southern California caused damage and economic loss that is projected to be somewhere between $250 billion and $275 billion, which would make it the costliest single disaster in our nation's history, surpassing the record set by Hurricane Katrina. Our states and localities deserve all the help they can get in protecting people's lives and property against deadly disasters. The aid that FEMA delivers before and after disasters is greatly appreciated and greatly needed. But as recent events demonstrate, there is room for improvement. We must ask, what efficiencies can be found, what reforms can be implemented to create a better emergency management enterprise? And how can FEMA be improved to better support those on the ground and disaster survivors? I applaud President Trump's January 24th executive order to convene a FEMA Review Council composed of individuals with expertise in disaster response and recovery who will be tasked with providing recommendations on reform to FEMA. Even the best government agencies are in continual need of reform, and FEMA is no exception. The purpose of this hearing is to solicit feedback from stakeholders within the emergency management community that can help guide President Trump's FEMA Review Council as it explores what aspects of FEMA deserves the most reform. I thank the witnesses for their perspective and for being here today. As we begin our conversation, there are a few areas of potential reform which I would like to highlight. FEMA's mission set has expanded greatly in recent years to include tasks beyond preparing for and responding to traditional disasters. For example, FEMA assisted the federal government's efforts in providing shelter and supplies to UACs from the southwest border. It also supported the Department of Homeland Security in the resettling of Afghan refugees by way of Operation Allies Welcome. Since 2019, FEMA has been administering funds to local governments and nonprofit groups to offset the cost of humanitarian relief efforts of caring for migrants, at first through the Emergency Food and Shelter Program Humanitarian, and since 2023, the Shelter and Service Program. As the border crisis ballooned during the Biden administration, I wonder how much time was wasted administering this program when the FEMA workforce was already stretched thin. As we contemplate how best to reconfigure or establish efficiencies within FEMA to support its operations, we must ask whether FEMA's expanding mission set has slowly exhausted the agency's resources and workforce, preventing it from completing its core mission to the highest level of sufficiency. In addition to FEMA's mission creep, there are concerns that FEMA has also enabled a certain degree of waste. A GAO report found that FEMA mishandled the administration of funds for its COVID-19 funeral assistance program, with at least $4.8 million being approved for duplicate or ineligible applicants. I look forward to our witnesses' thoughts on how to make FEMA as efficient as possible while still allowing it to carry out the fullness of its duties. It is also of great importance that FEMA avoid any appearances of partisanship. Following Hurricane Milton last year, a FEMA employee improperly and illegally instructed canvassers not to go to houses displaying signs of then presidential candidate Trump, disregarding FEMA's mission of supporting every disaster survivor. As I'm sure we can all agree, FEMA must be impartial in its performance of all duties. The FEMA Review Council will also consider various structural changes to FEMA as indicated in President Trump's executive order. Some have suggested FEMA should be removed from the Department of Homeland Security, once again making it an independent agency with direct access to the President of the United States. I look forward to hearing our witnesses' perspectives on this matter and whether they think this move would have a positive effect on FEMA's efficiency and ability to operate, as well as potential changes that could be created. Finally, it is evident that state and local governments have become increasingly reliant on FEMA to meet critical disaster response needs. I invite our witnesses to offer suggestions on a more appropriate structure of burden sharing between federal government and state and local government to best position them to respond to disasters. Again, I thank each of you for being here today, and I look forward to hearing your testimony on these and other issues to inform the work of the FEMA Review Council as they seek to reform FEMA to better serve the American people.